Hi, YouTube.
How you doing this evening? It's evening here anyway.
Okay, we're going to talk about the school system
Yes.
and
School system.
how we raised our children in the school system, right?
Yeah, and we're going to link it to what we were talking about before, suicide problems that children are having in school, because we think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the children are raised in a secured and protected type environment at home. Then all of a sudden they're thrown into a system that is completely different than their home and what they've been trained, and then they have to deal with it and deal with other children that may not have had the same type of home training, and they have to deal with that situation or those situations. That's causing a lot of kids to be depressed and to feel hopeless and feel like they're unprotected. So those are the types of things we're talking about, especially if you're in a school system that's not the greatest. Some of the private schools, some of the areas where the more affluent areas where they may have better school systems or whatever, but if you're in any inner city, the inner city schools for the most part are pretty bad here in the United States anyway. And those are the types of environments that the children are having a hard time dealing with, because kids are putting them down, kids are teasing them, they're bullying them, and the teachers are not doing too much, if anything, about it, because a lot of the teachers are trying to keep themselves safe.
Yeah, they're trying to survive.
Yeah.
They're trying to survive, the situation too,
Right.
because it's not easy.
No, it's not. My wife and I both have worked in the school system. I worked in the school system about 29 years in our city. Well, we're in Los Angeles, so here in Los Angeles. And my wife worked in the school system for several years. And we both know how the system is here, like I said, in the inner city in Los Angeles. And I've likened it to raising a beautiful child that's like an angel, and then all of a sudden putting the angel on death row.
Yeah.
Because the school system is about as bad as a prison almost here. And then you wonder how the child's going to survive. And a lot of the children are not surviving. And then some of the children are barely surviving. Then we worry about them getting good grades and studying and focusing and all this, when they're trying to keep themselves alive, make it to school safely and make it back alive.
Yeah.
So
We were watching the news, and it was showing a young man here. He got shot, and from a young man having a gun in his backpack. But I'm saying, yes, the children are surviving, and the parents is after them to get good grades, and there they are trying to survive with their lives.
yeah, come home safely, let alone worry about a grade. And a lot of the parents here are not aware of what's going on in school, because they never worked in the school system. Because we've worked in the school system, we see what's going on in the school system. And it's a lot worse now than it was years ago, but even years ago it was bad. I remember times when I had to take guns away from kids or knives away from kids, and that was years ago. We raised both of our sons. They were both homeschooled.
Yeah.
So we took out our oldest son out of school in kindergarten, and then the youngest son never did go to public school.
Yeah, so we want to say there is an alternative.
Yes. And there are even more alternatives now than there were when we did it.
Yeah.
Because now you can go online, and you can go all the way through high school online, and then still be able to go ahead on to college. Both of our sons turned out great, and we raised them in the inner city. A lot of people wonder why they're as nice a young men as they are, respectable, and never had any problems or anything. But a lot of it is because they were in a secure, protected environment, at home. They learned, at home.
And what better teacher is being you, because there you are. You're the parent and the nurturer. And can you imagine? And the child feels safe.
Yeah.
And that's really what your child needs, to feel safe and not put down. But in in the school system, what I've seen, it's a lot of putting down. I remember when I was going to school years ago. Okay, but I remember how I didn't want to read, and I'm telling you that affects my life now with my reading. So I'm telling you, what your child is going through in school is going to affect their adulthood, and that's the danger. And so that's why we're coming. I would just think if I would have been homeschooled, how more I'd put it stable I could have been. I'm not saying that I'm not stable, but I'm just saying it would have been better, because I would have been in a more peaceful surrounding, not worrying about who said this about you, and you got to fight this person and all this other stuff. I'm telling you, the children are really, if you just spend one day, that's all I'm just saying. Spend one day.
Everybody go one day, all day.
All
just
day.
Sit in the different classes. Your child might not like it, depending on how old your child is. But if you could do that, it would be unbelievable.
Yes.
What's going on in schools?
And don't try a week. Go for a whole week.
Yeah.
and you will see.
Yeah. You'll
What your
wonder
child
if
is
your child
going
learned
through.
anything.
Yeah.
You're wondering how they got the grades they did get. How they survived and came home without being hurt or harmed each and every day, or just getting to school. Some kids here in the inner city, they have to go through 6 or 7 different gang territories to get to school. So a lot of them carry guns just to keep themselves protected, and to get to school and then get home from school. So there was a time when there was a gang problem, but they would not bother the children going to school. So in other words, the children going to school could kind of have immunity to go through the different, neighborhoods. But it's not like that anymore either. Now, you go through 6 or 7 different gang affiliates or territories, and you may have to fight and run or do whatever to get to school. Then when you get there, the teacher, where's your homework? Where's this and where's that? And all this, and you all wore out just making it there. And then you got to do the same thing to get back home. So
every day.
It's really tough.
Yeah.
For kids.
And can you imagine? They don't want to be a snitch.
No.
They don't want to tell.
No. Especially nowadays, that's like a big no.
Yeah, no.
So whatever's happened to them is happening, and you don't know. Nobody knows what's happening to them unless you happen to see for yourself. Now, we're not advocating that everybody homeschools, because we know it's not possible for everybody to do it. But there are a lot of people who could do it that don't do it. In our situation, my wife stayed home, and we sacrificed. During those years, we didn't have the amount of monies that a lot of our friends had more money to spend during those years. But we sacrificed so that our children would be protected, because your first and foremost responsibility, once you have a child, is to that child.
It's your child.
That's your job then. So if you haven't done what you wanted in your life by that time, then I won't say it's too late, but you got to focus on your child. Maybe later, when that child's grown and gone, then you can do what you wanted to do. But your agenda has to be put aside once you have a child, because it's your responsibility. At least God expects us to raise and nurture that child properly and make sure he has all the opportunities to get the best in life. And so that was what we did.
Yeah, and the main thing is about the family.
Yeah.
And they was talking about how rare the black family is. I only could talk about who I am, okay? So, and I'm not trying to talk about no other race, but I'm talking about the black family. They said it's deteriorating. It's almost diminished. Husband and wife, and the children. I'm telling you, that's what we're going to have to go back to, nurturing ourselves, because we need help. So
you're not going to get it from the schools. The kids are not getting it out of the schools, and many people don't go to church anymore, so they're not getting any kind of training or anything from church. So the only training the children are getting is from the schools. And then the schools, like I've said in previous videos, is under Satan's system. So obviously they're going to teach them a lot of things contrary to what you believe. You know, especially if you're a Christian. You know, you're not. They're going to teach them about everything that's opposed to God, and so all of a sudden your child doesn't believe anymore, doesn't want to go to church anymore if he's a Christian. And, you know, he wants to explore this alternative lifestyle or that alternative lifestyle, whatever, and you're trying to figure out what happened.
Yes.
Well, it's because you sent him right into the jaws of the enemy, and the enemy taught him what the enemy wanted him to know. See, and you know, that's what we did when we sent our children. That's what we're doing. So we got to think about things like that, and or if your child is going to public school and he's learning these things, and at least when he comes home, you need to find out what he's learning. And we always sat down at dinner, had dinner together, you know, because you know, that's just the way we did it, and we always knew what was going on in everybody's life. So we need to do some things like that. Find out what your child's learning.
Eat together.
Yeah, eat together if you can.
For one
meals.
thing, yeah.
Everybody's in their
together.
own room. Everybody's at their own computer. Everybody's at a video game, or you know, and nobody ever communicates. You don't know what your child's learning. You might be teaching them the wrong thing. At least you can find out what they're teaching them to make some corrections. You know, unless you don't care. A lot of people use the school system as a babysitter. You know, because they don't have anybody to take care of the child. Well, if that's the case, then you can't expect that child to be, you know, as well-rounded and as grounded and as stable as you may expect him to be because of the environment he's in. He's doing the best he can. You know, many of the kids there have not been raised at all. They've been raised on the street. So, you know, when that child meets your child, that child is a lot tougher than your child. And
Right.
that child will beat your child down, or that child will intimidate your child, and all those things cause the child to feel like he's not accepted, or he's not wanted, or he's not welcomed, or he can feel depressed and even suicidal. You know.
Yeah. And some kids, just because they get good grades, they won't talk about their good grades. Why? Because they feel the other kids will call them you know, like egghead, or
they got their names.
you know what I'm saying? Or you trying to be white, or you know,
Yeah, just because you want to learn.
because you want to learn something. Yeah. So you know what I'm saying? They'll beat your child down just because he's getting a good grade.
We've heard it all. You know?
Yeah, so you have to really be concerned, you know, about your child. And like I said, go for a week though, just 1 week. Every day, and you will see, you know, what your child is going through, because it's really not good.
No, it's not good at all.
And like I said, the child's main thing, don't want to be a snitch.
Yeah.
So
if there's a problem, then they're not going to say anything about it.
Yeah, it's deep. So.
And then people get on their kids for not getting good grades or whatever.
Yeah.
I always tell children, because we do a lot of counseling of children, don't worry about your grades. Do the best you can. If you fail every single subject, that does not mean you're a failure. You know, some of the most richest people in the world never got degrees in school, you know, because they learn business, they learn how to work, and they learn how to apply themselves. They read books. Main thing is to learn how to read, to write, and to count your money.
There you go.
If you can learn reading, writing, and they used to call it arithmetic, you can learn that. That's the most important thing. But you can educate yourself with the internet, and children, they can learn a lot right over the internet. But just because they fail a subject does not mean they're a failure. There have been many kids that have committed suicide because they got a bad grade on a test. You know, big deal. Half the stuff we learn in school we'll never need to use anyway. I know half the stuff I learned, you know, I never needed to apply it, and never needed to even remember it again after that. So it's not as important as you would think. So we need to stop putting pressure on our kids.
Yeah.
Love them. Let them know you love them. Let them know you're in their corner, regardless of what's going on, and find out what's happening.
Yeah, and stop criticizing your children. And like I said, and make a safe place for them, so they will feel safe, that they could come home and tell you, you know, this is how I feel, you know, I'm going through this. But if they don't feel safe, and if they're always being criticized, I'm telling you, you're not going to be able to reach your own child.
They'll go into a shell, and then you could wind up losing them.
Yeah.
And you don't want that, and we know you don't want that.
Yeah. So we're here,
Yep.
and we want to be a blessing. So
Email us if you have any questions, and we will pray for you.